How's it going, everyone? It's Alex with AC Flips. I have a guest, Feels a Profit, with me today, and we are going to talk about virtual assistants and everything virtual assistant with the Amazon space. So thanks for joining me at the start.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, Alex. Good to see you in my own house, I guess.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Awesome to be in person. But we're just going to go through kind of the process of what it takes to hire VAs, the importance of VAs in your Amazon business, and then kind of Warner's personal journey with his virtual assistant team. So, all right, so before we get started, you want to introduce yourself and talk about how you got into Amazon and kind of where you built up to be your virtual assistant journey this far.
My name is Warner, in case anyone is their first time seeing me. I started selling Amazon in 2018, and when I started selling, something that was super important to me, even though I was a broke college kid at the time, I had $1,500, was I didn't want to start a hustle, right? Like I had to hustle in the beginning, I didn't have very much money, but I wanted to start a business. And so as I was looking for things to start, I tried eBay dropshipping, I tried a bunch of stuff that failed, right? And so I eventually stumbled onto Amazon and then also started seeing some content about like virtual assistants and that kind of stuff. So that was like off in the distance for me, but I knew that Amazon could be a business and not a hustle, right? So it's something I can pull myself out of, I can buy my time back. And so for me, like, I was like, oh, I have to spend a bunch of time, sourcing products. That was the first kind of use case for me. It's like, oh, I can record an hour-long video. I can help, I coach people all the time. Like that's what we do, is help people source products, sell on Amazon. So I can definitely do that. And instead, I'm just going to hire them and put on my own business. And then we're able to, kind of source some extra products that way. So that was the first kind of use case for virtual assistants for me. But yeah, we do about 200,000 a month right now. I've got about 9 virtual assistants on our team. So yeah, super excited to get into it.
Okay, so now you're up to 9 virtual assistants. Can you talk about how you got to 9 and like where did you start and when did you feel like you needed to keep hiring more employees?
Yeah, so right now our team is 6 dedicated sourcers, which is admittedly a little too much for our volume. So we got a little bit of work to do, a little bit of training, but we've got a manager who's basically reviewing all their leads. He's running calls saying, hey, these leads were great, these leads weren't. He's just coaching them, that kind of thing. And also deciding how much we should be buying. So all 6 of those are sending their leads to him. He's looking at 30, 50, 60 leads depending on the day. And he's going to say, all right, we don't want this, here's why, or we do want this, we're going to buy 60, right? And then he's going to pass that information along to, I have a part-time buyer. It's actually American, so kind of a virtual assistant, right? Mm-hmm. Technically, because he's not here in Wisconsin, but you're right. So that information is going to get sent off to him for him to actually pull the trigger and buy those good products. And then we have an admin virtual assistant who basically just goes in. She takes care of ungating requests and IP complaints and all the little nitty-gritty emails, that kind of stuff. She also looks at a lot of my just like business and personal emails, that kind of thing, to help me stay a little bit organized in that regard.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of things to keep track of, but let's go back to the beginning when you hired your first employee. Yep. Can you walk us through, what it took to get to that employee? Where did you go to find them even, or how did you,
yeah, for sure,
get started? Yeah,
so I hired my first virtual assistant. I guess it would have been something like 2.5 years ago at this point, which is kind of crazy.
Long time.
But yeah, so at the time, like we were just getting started with online arbitrage. We had like a leads list or something like that back in the day before we realized it's not a good product. Like side note, don't be on a leads list.
Yeah.
So he was actually dedicated to that team at the start, and we just needed help source some more products, right? So I went to onlinejobs.ph was the website. Just made a job posting there. Hey, you need to have these skills. And then just reply with like, let me know what skill sets you have in terms of online arbitrage. Do you use Keepa? Do you use SellerAmp? All that kind of stuff, right? And then we're just kind of, figuring out who's good. So a quick tip I'll give, I won't go on too much of a rant on this section here, but when you're making those job postings on online jobs, ask them to say like, what's your favorite color? Or where do you want to travel? That way you're only reading applications from people who read your job description. If they're not reading your job description, there's no way they're reading your training documents. So it's just kind of a quick tip as you guys do start putting the feelers out.
Yeah, that's definitely a good tip because you're going to get, especially online jobs, you're going to post something and you might get 50 applicants and
you get at least 50, yeah.
At least 50,
you get like hundreds,
right?
Usually,
yeah. So that's an easy way to weed out, the ones that are just going to copy and paste their resume, onto the description. You want ones that are going to read through your description because if they're thorough there, chances are they're going to be at least more thorough, once they start working for you. All right, so that first employee, do they still work for you, or have you had bad employees that you've had to move on from? I guess, what is your stance on that?
Yeah. We had to let him go after like 2 years or something like that. Like he just stopped trying for whatever reason. Like that one was painful. I won't lie. Like, like I always fire the people that I have to fire face to face, just it's the right thing to do. Like, they're people too.
Sure.
You wouldn't fire an American via text probably, so at least pay them the courtesy of a video call. So after that one, I was like, man, like that one hurt a little bit, right? Yeah, and as far as, you know, firing other virtual assistants, bad experiences, that kind of stuff, like, sure, you're gonna have, you know, the occasional virtual assistant like that's trying to cheat the system a little bit, or, you know, we have a way to like store leads and store them as yours. So we had the thing where she figured out a way to like trick the system, so I had to fix it, and obviously they're not going to last on the team too long that way. But really small percentage of people are doing that, right? Like, one thing to remember is that these like virtual assistant jobs, they're like super sought after in the Philippines. They pay well, you get to stay at home, like you're not out in the heat all day, like, so they're really sought after. And so most people who are working those jobs are very competent. They know what they're doing. Like, they're aware of the, you know, the good job that we are able to provide there. So as long as you're good to your people, for the most part, they're going to be good back. Where I think a lot of people run into like bad experiences is like their own fault, right? You're not sharing profit with them. You're not being transparent in your goals. Like, the more you let them in and you know, help them be better as sourcers, help, you know, share that victory, you know, with you. So like, we share a little bit of profit on the products that they find. The more you do that kind of stuff, the more they're going to be like, you know, I probably don't want to cheat this guy. He's a good employer for me. So a lot of the bad employees is just you being a bad employer.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah, the profit sharing thing, a lot of people that have good VAs probably do that. I mean, I do that as well. It just gives them more incentive to, you know, the more the business grows, the more they get paid, or you know, the better off they are. And you know, it's just employer treating the employee well. So it's kind of a win-win. Yeah, and some tactical advice I'll give you guys on that, if you do go down that route, is to do it like bracketed. So they find, you know, let's say they find $5,000 in profit, give them like 6 or 7%, right? Or let's say they only find $500 in profit, there's got to be a threshold. They're probably not even replacing their salary at that point, right? So that's 0% profit. So if you guys do that, make sure you do a bracketed structure of some kind, so that it rewards your best sellers, and it kind of penalizes the people who are like just kind of staying afloat, making you $1,000, $2,000, that kind of thing. Yep. And always, you know, incentivizes the bottom too. If they are motivated, good employees, they're going to work to grow as well. Yeah. Okay, so now let's switch to the good experiences that you had, or, you know, what does it take to make a good employee? Because they don't always start out as home runs, but sometimes, you know, if you work with them for a few months, you know, they can become really good employees for you. Yeah, kind of going back to the, you know, I hired a bad employee, like right off the bat. People will write off their employees like right off the bat. But yeah. And so one of my best virtual assistants, she was actually not very good at first, right? But you know, you and I were talking about a virtual assistant that you have. She wasn't very good. She was asking questions and she was emailing and all that kind of stuff. And so she was kind of doing the same thing. Like, she was seeing the feedback I was leaving. She was finding a lot of leads with a lot of mistakes. And then I was like, hey, here's the mistake you made. She's like, oh, okay, I get it. She was just like, over time, she's a lot more diligent. And then she became our kind of our best product sourcer, which is kind of super cool to see. But in terms of, you know, finding those good employees, that kind of thing, like, you're not looking for people that have the best skill set that day. You're looking for people who are going to have the best skill set long term. So they're coachable, they're willing to learn. Like, a lot of times, when you hire people that have been doing product sourcing, it's like, hey, I've been doing product sourcing for 4 years. Like, they're only going to do it one very specific way that worked 4 years ago when they got trained, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times, like, the new guys will be the ones that come in and do an awesome job because they're new, they're coachable, they're willing to learn. And so, like, as you guys are looking for employees, don't look for like the magic bullet. Look for someone that can learn, you know, hey, here's how I do this. Go actually implement it, because you'll start to notice that a lot of them, especially the older ones, the ones that have been doing it for a while, are just kind of stuck in their ways. Yeah, I totally agree. I like I said, I have 2 employees. One of them is the way where he had some experience, and that can be a negative, right? Like, if you find somebody who's only sourced for this one way and it's not the right criteria that you have, then maybe they're a little bit harder to train or coach. But the ones that are, you know, don't know a ton about Amazon or haven't worked for, you know, a US-based, you know, Amazon seller yet, then you can kind of mold them, especially if they're coachable, into a really solid employee. For sure, yeah. Okay, if you had to pick like 1 or 2 things that really make a solid employee or helped you develop a solid employee, like, what are those couple things that really, you know, almost guarantee that the employee is going to be able to build with you? Yeah, so obviously we've been talking about, like, you're looking for that coachability, but on top of that, like, you have to have things in place so that they can, you know, get coached, right? So if you're hiring a virtual assistant, expecting it to be, you know, I'm just gonna hire a virtual assistant, I don't have to source anymore, right? Like, that first month or 2 after you first hire some assistants, like, it's gonna be more work than before, because you're still doing your own sourcing, and you're figuring out how to train this new person, implement them into your kind of workflow, right? So don't think of it as, you know, that magic solution for your business, but long term, you know, have weekly meetings with them, especially in the early days, like right after you hire them. Like, make sure you're looking at each individual lead
giving them feedback, even making like a little Loom video, like a quick 1-2 minute video, breaking down like, hey, on this Keepa chart, here's why this wasn't a good product, or hey, here's why this was a great product, and why we're gonna be able to buy 100 of it, right? So being transparent with the stuff that's good and also the stuff that's bad. Not, I think the tendency a lot of people have is to only share the, hey, this lead was bad today, why didn't you find good leads? So celebrate the good leads when they do. Otherwise they're gonna be like, man, all this guy does is just like take money from me and then get mad at me when I mess up. Like, we're all human, we're all gonna make some mistakes. So as long as you're celebrating that win with them, once a week, it doesn't even have to be once a week, like once you really get the ball rolling, as often as possible, sit down with them and just show them how you're personally sourcing. So for most of you guys, like, you're just gonna be doing your own sourcing plus whatever they're doing. So something that you should be doing is, I'm really good at sourcing here. Here's how I source here. You can go check it out. And then you, probably the smarter sourcer, you've been more experienced, it's your business on the line. You can go explore new places, and then you've given them the sauce on exactly how you like to source your favorite spot. I think people do it the wrong way, and they keep doing their favorite place, and they're letting the virtual assistant explore. And sometimes they'll find some winners, but you're probably a little bit more likely to find, it's like, holy crap, I can stack this coupon with this gift card, and I can do it over and over and over again. Like, that's the stuff that you're, as a business owner, gonna be able to find. And so that's what I would say, like, especially early on, is put them somewhere you already know that they can win. And that's also going to validate it way sooner. Like, I know this is a good spot. I've been winning here. Why aren't they? It's probably not a great fit, right? Especially if they're not adjusting to feedback over time. You put them in that spot, it's like, oh, they're finding the same products I would have been. Now I get another me in my business.
Exactly. So what do you think the natural progression is of like a sourcing VA? They're not going to be finding you 10,000 in profit the first month, but what should we expect? And then at what point, if they're not making progress, like at what point do you either need to change the way you're coaching them or maybe even let them go?
Yeah, a lot of that is going to depend on how much cash you have on hand. Like, the more cash you have, the more risk you can take, obviously. So like, we'll probably hold on to virtual assistants a little bit longer than the average person will at this point. Like, I usually wouldn't fire them until like month 1, month 2. Some people would be like, day 1, you're out of here. Like, we've done that a couple times. Like, when it's just like, all right, this is not it.
You just know it's not.
Yeah, it's not the right fit. Yeah. But typically you're going to, they worked for you for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You're noticing that they're kind of struggling a little bit. And so just set clear expectations with them. I think that's another thing people fall into is you need to be sourcing better leads. And they're like, okay, what do you mean? Like, that's not quantifiable. It's not a good incentive to keep pushing. And so they just keep doing what they're doing, and it's probably not going to work out. On the flip side, like, if they're making you $500 in profit, right? You can be transparent and say that, hey, we're going to be looking for you to make at least, let's say they're getting paid $600 a month, right? So maybe a pretty reasonable expectation is that they're making $1,200 a month profit for you, right? They're at least doubling their salary. So that's kind of a common, like, bare minimum that I'll keep with my team if they ever get to a certain threshold. They've been under it for a month, that kind of thing. It's like, hey, I'm going to be looking for this specific profit threshold for you next month. That's what your bonus is based on. So I'd love to see you get there. Let me know how I can support you. You're gonna, get them a little bit of extra training. So like, if anyone's ever struggling, like, I'll shoot them a Loom video. Hey, go check out this site, say, like, that kind of stuff. So again, support plus a little bit of, setting those specific KPIs for them, making sure that they know what they're supposed to hit. Make sure they know that they're in a little bit of trouble, right? But it's not like you're getting fired if you don't meet these goals. Like, hey, this is what we're looking for. Let me help you get there. Like, kind of holding their hand a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great way to put it, because like, it might take them a couple weeks, even a month or two to really get in the groove of things. And like my one employee that didn't have a ton of Amazon experience, I think like month 1, I maybe spent $3,000 of her leads. In month 2 or 3, it was up to 15,000.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
I mean, they can make growth. You just have to, make sure that you give them the tools to make that growth. If you don't give them the chance or give them the opportunity and train them well enough to make the growth, then you might be firing them prematurely and letting go a good employee that you just never knew was good.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on the channel today. I know you have a ton of virtual assistant videos and how to find them and stuff like that. So where can people find all that content?
Awesome. Yeah. If you want to go check it out, I'm Fields of Profit on all platforms. Especially if you dive into the YouTube, you can learn how to source products. Alex makes great videos, so get a little bit of extra perspective as well, right? So yeah, check it out, Fields of Profit on all platforms.
Awesome. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. If you did, subscribe to both our channels, and we'll see you in the next video.
Awesome.